grades up to 10. When that was built over there in 1918, it became the first high school in Englewood. And we had African Americans going to school back there. But as usual, the women outnumbered the men, or the girls outnumbered the boys in high school. Because a lot of the males dropped out, went in the army, so forth and so forth. But during my time of growing up, we had neighborhood schools. We had Lincoln, which is in the 4th Ward, predominantly 4th Ward. When we were growing up in the 40s and the 50s, the 4th Ward was African Americans and Italian. But before all that happened, all that area was Dutch. In the 1600s, the Dutch came there, then the Italians, then the African Americans. So Lincoln School was 99% African American, a few Italians, but the teachers were 99% Caucasian. Then we had Liberty School, which is right at the monument. That school was built in 1902. That was a high school and elementary school. Then it became an elementary school, and it was like 90% Caucasian during the time that I was growing up. Abe Martin, Mr. Jordan, Mr. James Jordan, Richard Allen, Melvin Dreyfus. These are some of the people that I grew up with. I shouldn't say Debbie, because Debbie, you went to what, Liberty School?
I went to Lincoln School.
Oh, she went to Lincoln, so she was
Thank you.
yeah. And then we had Cleveland School, which was 100% Caucasian, which is Dr. McLeod now. And we also had Roosevelt on the other side of town, over there by Broad Avenue, where James Evans, raise your hand, James. He went to school there. He was one of the lucky African Americans. He was an uppity. Everybody that lived on the east side of McKay Park in the 4th Ward, we was the down and out, and I guess you would say the peasants back then. We was considered. Everybody over to the west and the south, they were a little uppity. And everybody used to congregate in McKay Park. And also, Don Quarles wasn't built until '61, so we didn't have Quarles. And we didn't have the middle school. The middle school became the junior high school when they closed up Lincoln. Now, they closed Lincoln up in 1954, and I'm going to say it's somebody's age. Mr. Jordan, who's in the back, went to Lincoln School. He was one of the, I guess, him and Mel Dreyfus are the last Lincoln School, junior high school people that's in here that went, it was kindergarten to 9th grade. My 8th grade was during the desegregation in Brown versus Brown in 1954 in Topeka, Kansas, when they cut out Lincoln Junior High School in 1954. So in 1955 to 56, I was in the first 9th grade class to go to Dwight Morrow. So I was at Dwight Morrow from 56 to 60. And so all the schools that we had, they were neighborhood schools. So therefore, you know, they said it was, everybody got the equal education, but it wasn't. And it was just separate and unequal. So during the time moved on, and then in 63, 62, 63, that's when we got the full desegregation of the schools. And Dr. McLeod was during that time. So this is about individuals who was educated in our school system. Yes.
You want to let him introduce?
Oh, David?
No, you already
David just laying back. He said I had to do myself.
Let him go for 2 minutes and then...
No.
David said no.
You're on a roll.
I didn't know. Yes, so...
Thank you.
Okay. Like I said, I saw the book and they only had 3 African Americans, and I said, I want to do something about it. So I joined the Englewood Historical Society. And I was the only brother on the Board of Education. As they say, I'm the spook who sat by the door. There was a book where the guy went in the CIA, sat by the door, learned everything, about the CIA and the FBI, and he came back to his neighborhood and taught them everything. So that's what I was. And I'm just happy to see so many people here, especially this young man right here, because I'll be talking about his mother, Miss Patricia Pat Thompson, who graduated with me in 1960, with Abe Martin and I in 1960, and she was always smart. I wanted to play basketball because she was almost tall as me at 6'1". And I'm going to get on to her, and her son is a principal in Patterson. And he's an Englewood, got his education in Englewood. So we got so many people. I'm glad you showed up. Hey, Walter. Now, Black History Month, or African American History Month, we know that Carter G. Woodson started the Black History. But why did he start the Black History? Carter Woodson started Black History. First of all, he was born in 1875. He passed away in 1950. And he found out that there was no education about the individuals of his race. And he wanted to start letting everybody know that his race have done a lot of things, accomplishment, all the way back to the pyramids and even before that. But in America. So he couldn't go to school right away. You know, he didn't start high school until he was 20 years old. Isn't that something? But it only took him 2 years to finish high school. Then he studied and went to college and went abroad, came back. He was a dean at Howard University. Then he was in charge of West Virginia State, which is in Institute, West Virginia. And he chose to start Black History, let everybody know what we has accomplished. Because some of you know all the individuals, you know the regular people that we talk about all the time, you know, the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X, the Rosa Parks. But even before them, the Benjamin Banneker, you know, who designed Washington, D.C., Morgan, who discovered the gas mask. They said Aaron Byrd was on the North Pole first, but he wasn't. Matthew Henson was there, you know, and et cetera, and et cetera. So that's why he started. And they said, well, it started out as a week for African American history. Then it became a month. Come on in. Come on in. It became a month. And everybody want to say, oh, they give us the shortest month in the year. Did anybody ever think about that in here? And first of all, I forgot to say, you can call me Reverend Monroe. Because I make believe like I'm a Baptist minister. You talk back to me. Because we in our church, we talk back to the preacher. And if he's wrong, we might say something in there. Am I right? So you can talk back to me, and there's a lot of people in here know just as much history as I do. So getting back to Carter Woodson, he chose to make February Black History Week and then Black History Month, not because it was the shortest month, not because Frederick Douglass was born in February, came out of Maryland, not because other things, not because the 13th Amendment supposedly had freed the slaves, but we know the 13th Amendment didn't free the slaves. But why do we have Juneteenth? Because 2 years later, in 1865, the slaves down in Florida and down in Texas didn't even know they were free until the army came down there because they didn't tell them. He started it because there was a certain time that the 13th Amendment and so forth was done and finished, and it was finished in February. So that's why he started that. Now, I'll be getting into the program, but they said, well, how did it all start? How did you get involved in Black history? As I said, when I was a young boy growing up in Englewood on Warren Street in 1942 until 1960, I lived in the same house. But when I was growing up in a foster home, it was 8 of us. It's only 2 of us alive now, my foster brother Eddie Jones. We weren't allowed to talk, and I was the youngest one. So when you was young, and back in those days, you couldn't speak unless you got permission, because they could hit you with anything. So I didn't even talk until I got in high school. I didn't even talk much. But I'm making up for it now. Right on, right on. Come on in, some of my people here coming in, and I'm definitely going to be talking about their ancestors and descendants. Because Mr. Harper's mother had some mean little basement parties when I was a young guy. Yes, I'll let you sit on down. And another thing, how did it start with me? Well, you know, it started in Wallacoochee, Georgia. We were so poor that the rats and roaches left the note said they were leaving. That's not true. I'm just trying to loosen it up. But it did start in Englewood. Back in our day, we had a lot of father figures. Like I said, I've never seen my father in my life. And for you people that came in, my mother got pregnant with me in 1941 when she was in college. And back then, it was hush-hush if you were born out of wedlock. So my grandmother was recruited from North Carolina in 1939 for $10 in a place to stay to be a domestic. So she took me and let my mother go back to school and put me in a foster home on Wayne Street when I was 9 months old. So I lived there from the foster home for 9 months till I was 13. And like I said before, my father, well, the Temptations made a song about him. Papa was a Rolling Stone, wherever he let his hat was his home. And there was a lot of those in our time. So, but I didn't have a father or mother, but everybody in my neighborhood was my father and mother. And that's the way it should be now. Everybody in the neighborhood should look out for each other. And we don't know our neighbors and whatnot. But always, always, education was the first. So that's why I'm standing here today to talk about the many people that went through our school system that became doctor, lawyers, Indian chiefs, and everything else. And during our time coming up, everyone had a nickname. My name is Thomas Moose Monroe. I can't even get rid of that Moose. Everybody thought my mother really named me Moose. And thought my main partner, Donald Akers, his nickname was Crip, because he was broken up so many times. This guy used to pump over the swing and go over, and he broke his arm. He got hit by a horse and buggy. When we was young, Mr. Bacote had a horse and buggy and used to have hay rides. The horse and buggy ran over his leg. Okay, he got hit by a car, and them old cars had big bumpers. They were scared to take him off the bumper, and they drove him to the Englewood Hospital on the bumper. This is true stories. I mean, but it's true. Now, this guy was 2 personalities. What's the word? What's the price? Who's drinking the most? The colored folks. What's the reason apple wine out of season? The reason I say that is that Donald Crip Akers was Clark Kent until he drank Thunderbird. He drank Thunderbird one day and tried to jump the brook. Over there in McKay Park, we had J Street where the bridge is cut off now going to McKay Park. And he made it, but he hit the cement so hard and broke both ankles and had to take him. So that's Donald Crip Akers. Now I'm going to just list, I was thinking one night, I said, everybody has a nickname. And I know some of you people in there have nicknames. And one of my favorite nicknames is one of my friends back there, Richard Allen. Raise your hand. His name is Itchy Goo. And James Edmund, I'm not going to say your name. I'm not going to say that. But I'll start out with Moose, Crip, Bull, Snake, and you know a lot of animals is done. Froggy, Duck, Cricket, Pig, Dog, Wolf, Rat, Sheriff, Geronimo, Gully, Caesar, T-Bone, Bush, Bama, Senior, Senor, Razor, Cochise, Bozo, Brit, Bungo Bob, his brother.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah. Heavy, Red, Bull, Slick, Hoppy, Railroad, Railroad Sellers, God rest his soul. Wolf, Hawk, Bear, Diz, Dynamite, Chi-Chi, Itchy Goo, WT, Cookie, Rubberman, Def, Bossy, Cha Cha Boom, one of my favorites. Bunny, Nard, Weasel, JJ, Tops, Baby, Mum, Notch, Pop, Baldy, Snow, Muno, Blackie Duke, Pee-wee, Cool Breeze, Skeets, Fat, Skull, Lump Lump, Tarzan, Fuffy, Tilly, Grapefruit, Tiny, Nunny, Slim, Put Out, Roscoe, The Governor, that's Joe Akers, Killer, Pinky Taylor sent me a tape. He's the first Lester Taylor before Reverend Taylor over there at Community. Sleepy, Horse, Tattoo, Dutz, Spanky, Bunky, Biggie, Peanut, Nicky, Bubbies, Scratch, Puddin', Pumpkin, Smoke, Tops, Crowbait, Sang, Jim Dandy, Monster, Erie, Boot, Roach. I did say Boot. I'm sorry, James. Roach, Mouse, Yogi, Easy Ed, Fox, Bo, Wop, Big Diggy, Little Diggy, Tall. Some of the girls, Sissy, Sweetie Pie, Nunny, Say, Mamie K, Sookie, Kitty, Gambella. Gambella. I'm going to say Gambella again because she was the first woman, white or black, to drive a bulldozer. And we had a park called McKay Park, and we had the woods where Charlie Brokers over there where Parkfield is. And they used to shoot dice up there, and she used to go up there and break up the dice games and take the money from the guys. And nobody would mess with her. Hey, Ralph, sit down. This is another one of my guys.
Tell everybody
He know more history than I do, and him and I have been on television doing the Black History of Englewood. His grandfather came here in the 1890s, and his father was born over there in 1911 at 8 Wham Street behind Bethany Presbyterian Church.